Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Last week, I created a video about how I prepare and organize my material in order to outline for my law school classes. Today, after popular demand, I am now creating a video about how to exactly outline, what to put into your outline, and how to study the outline once you create the end product. For those of you who don't know what outlining is, it is a form of studying for law students that's also applicable for undergraduate students. It is a condensed version of all of your reading material, all of your lecture and reading notes, as well as any assignments given by a professor. In the end, you create about a 30 to 40 page document with all of your information organized by major headings, as well as a table of contents to help you navigate through the outline efficiently during open book finals. Right now, I'm currently showing you an outline that I created last year during my first year of law school for my criminal law course. It was definitely a trial and error to figure out how I wanted to create my outline visually, as it depends on the person, how they want to structure it. For me, I like to include a brief summary at the top. I use a 2-column system to utilize the space more efficiently, and I like to not use color because it is more expensive to print color, so I stick to black and white and bolding. In the end, you will be able to create an outline that looks like this when you watch this video. So if this is something that you're interested in learning how to do and how to study the final product, keep watching. Alright, first things first, and getting started with your outline is opening a brand new Word document. I prefer using the Office desktop app for Word instead of using the sort of web browser online version, which is offered in the Office 365 suite. For some reason, at least from my personal experience, you don't get a lot of formatting options like in the layout or design sections in the online version than you do in the desktop version. So I highly recommend using the desktop version when creating your outline, especially since I cannot for the life of me find a table of contents option in the online version of Office. Next, to no one's surprise, you're going to want to open wherever you take your reading/lecture notes. I take mine in the free organization system known as Notion. I do have a particular YouTube video on how I take notes in Notion if you want to go watch that. I'm now heading over into my Trade Secrets and Business Torts class, which is what I'm going to use as an example for outlining. I go into where I keep my notes, and today I'm just going to click on a random week, which is going to be misappropriation for today. I open this into a larger window, and as you can see, I keep both reading notes and lecture notes in 2 different columns. This allows me to fill in the gaps of my reading notes with whatever the professor emphasizes during lecture. Now that I have all of the materials and notes that I need to write out this particular section of my outline, I'm going to talk to you about the skeleton of a section for your outline. The first thing that you're going to want in your outline is a table of contents. We actually spent a whole week before law school in this sort of 1L boot camp situation, and they spent 3.5 hours teaching us on how to make a table of contents. So you're going to go up here to references, click on this table of contents icon, click on the drop down arrow, and you're going to want to choose whatever particular layout you want to use. Obviously there's no right or wrong answer, so I just choose the first one. And as you can see, this already has pre-filled in major headings and subheadings from the information that I wrote down here as an example. In order to do this, you're going to want to select all for a major heading, such as this, misappropriation. You're going to want to go back up to the top right icon that has a check mark, click the down arrow, and then for major headings, you're going to want to click level 1. Level 2 and level 3 are subheaders and subminor headers that you can put in your table of contents. For now, I just did misappropriation as well as these cases that are going to be subheadings. I'm going to select them all, going back to where I was earlier, and I clicked on level 2 to make them subheaders. After updating all of your subheaders and major headers, you're going to update the entire table. And there you have it. Your table of contents is prearranged and organized just the way that you assigned the major headings and subheaders. It will also be associated with a particular page number so that you can navigate through your outline during open book exams. You're now probably thinking to yourself, how am I supposed to figure out what my major headings are for my outline? Well, you can base it off several things: your syllabus, your textbook, your reading or lecture notes. I prefer the syllabus because it aligns with the way that the professor structures their class. As you can see here, this week 3 is called Misappropriation, but I'm going to cross-reference my professor's syllabus, which I have open here in a different window or tab, and he also lists this week as Misappropriation of Trade Secrets, so we're good on that front. I'm going to stick with misappropriation as my major heading for this section. Moving on to subheadings, these can really be anything depending on the type of class you're taking. In law school, most of these subheadings will be case names or rule names, but for example, in STEM-related courses, you might start with a vocabulary word or an equation. Applying that to the example I put on the bottom here, I started with the statutory definition of misappropriation. I condensed that information from my reading notes and placed it here. I also like to include a brief summary or general important notes at the top of each section or at the bottom of each section as a means to create a canned answer. Law students use these during open book finals when there are huge fact patterns, issue spotters, or essays that we have to write. It saves us time, and it's also a form of review. I will do a different video specifically about canned answers later. As a law student, we are taught through the casebook method, where we read a bunch of cases that are related to a particular larger topic in the syllabus. So my subheaders are normally cases related to, for example, misappropriation. As you can see here, I have 3 cases that we read for this particular section of the syllabus, and I list them here as subheaders. These subheaders will look different for everyone, again, depending on what class you are taking. They can be vocabulary words, like definitions and examples. They can be rules, like the Federal Rules of Evidence or Civil Procedure. You can list the actual rule, the committee notes, and the cases that pertain to that rule. Or your subheader, again, like I mentioned before, can be a case, where I like to list first the black letter law, short facts, normally an acronym associated with those facts so that I can memorize it easier, the legal analysis, as well as the holding. Once you finish up a few sections and include more details from your reading and lecture notes, you should have an end product that starts to look something like this depending on your formatting. Again, at the top I have a brief summary of that particular section with major points that I need to know and definitions. As you can see, I'm highlighting words that are definitions that I used as subheaders. You're seeing a lot of columns in my outline, but you don't have to use this. Again, it's all about trial and error and figuring out how you want your outline to look visually. You can play around with the formatting, the design, the layout, the colors in, of course, the Word document app. Another option that you may include that is really good for visual learners is a case key, which is a chart that organizes all of the cases that you've read throughout the semester. You don't have to use cases if you're, for example, studying something to do with STEM. You can use equations in the graph and organize it that way. But the case key puts everything into an even more condensed format, and I even use trigger facts that are very, very shortened summaries of particular cases. For example, if you look at Theories of Punishment, The Queen and Dudley Stevens, I think I'm about to highlight it. To the right, if you see the phrase "yummy human boy," I condensed a fact pattern for a case about people stranded on a boat who killed a kid and ate him as a means to survive. And yummy human boy is the trigger facts that I use to trigger the entire fact pattern of that case, rather than memorizing, 6 to 8 sentences of that case. So I have this criminal law case key at the end of my outline so that I can easily flip to it if I need to remind or refresh myself of a particular case during the final. Alright, your outline is finished, or at least you have some of it done, and you're getting closer to finals. How exactly do you study the outline that you created? Some students, law students, will, goodness, this binder is so fat. Some students will handwrite or just create flashcards on Quizlet and study that way. I like to do that if I have time to create flashcards, but what I like to do and what I find more beneficial is taking the outline that you create and then creating blank spaces to write in important information or details. I do that for the entire syllabus, all 60 pages. I'll then try to answer it without using any textbooks or going back to the outline key and then going back and highlighting anything that I get wrong or took me a really long time to figure out, or a space that I cheated on and did go back to my outline to get the answer for. And this also helps me when I highlight things that I don't really know when I create my short sheets or canned answers, which is something I'll go over in a different video. And that's pretty much it. That wraps up the law school outlining video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any special requests, comment below. Thinking of doing a morning and evening routine next. But of course, final season is upon us, and I will likely not be creating content this coming week. I hope you have a calm and peaceful final season.